is like the length of my arm.
You mean in volume size?
Volume
actual,
sizes.
okay. I'm like...
And we're trying to put that in like 2 hours.
That's true.
And it's like, fuck. Am I pretty yet? Just eating volumes.
Volumes.
Yeah, just
chapters.
eating. Just eat them, Robert. Just eat them. You'll become beautiful. His eyes just are bulging.
Robert is just like, oh, I can't wait to work with James Cameron. And like you see a strung out James. I've been trying to shave this down for 20 years. Oh my god.
This is your torch to bear now. I have to go make Avatar 7.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the line. I can't have Alita Battle Angel drag down Avatar 7.
That's the title of this podcast. What is up, Internet? It's your boy Brando and Christopher House. Welcome to the Otaku Remix Podcast. Chris, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. We're coming in having seen Alita Battle Angel. Maybe, what was it, a few days ago?
Yes.
Maybe a little more than a week ago.
Within 7 moons of this recording.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we figured we'd record some of our thoughts, especially in the aftermath.
Yes.
Is it appropriate to call it that? Because everybody's very positive about this film.
Something like that. There's definitely been a huge response within the anime community, and just in general, geek culture has been simmering with what Alita is, what it represents, what people are thinking of the film. There's a lot of meta commentary to kind of go into, along with our thoughts on the film, so we're just going to kind of spitball today.
Yeah.
And just talk about what we've been hearing, what we've been feeling, etc., etc. So, in lieu with that, so we were talking just about a moment ago about how people are kind of like hoisting this movie up as a flag, as a cross, as a symbol.
As anime done right.
Yes, as anime done right, manga done right, what we've been waiting for. So many of the same sentiments I've heard echoed many times over, that this is the moment for us to vote with our dollar to show Hollywood that this is what we want. And in ways I agree, in ways I disagree. What are your thoughts right now?
I mean, I agree. Ultimately, I agree. All, like, if we were just doing a movie review, I would say, if you're interested in Alita, go see this. The movie is not bad at all. It's actually quite entertaining.
Oh yeah.
And also, it does kind of need your help. It's like, we went like a few days after it opened, and the room was like empty.
Yeah,
we were on a Saturday night, nonetheless.
Yeah, it was opening weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was rough. But the movie itself, I overall enjoyed, even though we're gonna like dig at it with knives.
Oh yeah, we're not gonna be. This won't be very gentle, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I agree with the sentiment of go support this movie. It's a lot of fun, but there's a big asterisk with it, and it's like, don't expect this to win over the average consumer.
What do you mean by that exactly?
What I mean is like, kind of similar to how I felt with Dragon Ball, where it's like, this is made for Alita/anime fans.
You mean like Broly, right?
Broly, yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Dragon Ball Broly.
Yeah.
And
not Evolution.
Not Evolution. No, that one was made for me.
Yeah.
We'll get into that one day.
One day.
I adore watching that movie, but like in the room sense.
Oh,
where it's like, it's just fun to laugh at.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, wait, what have I done?
Yeah.
Like,
oh, fuck.
who are you?
I chose the wrong guy.
Yes.
This is why you wear a condom. But no. It's so back to Alita. Alita is actually fun, and where it trips up the movie is in its heavily in its pacing.
Oh yeah.
Its pacing is all over the fucking map, and it's because it's trying to cram, like, visually, if you look at the manga set for Alita Battle Angel, and if you stretch out your arm, that's how far the books go. Like, it is a dense piece of media, and they're trying to cram, like, I'd say 2/3 of the original into this movie. Yeah. And it's just a lot to go through. So you have these emotional arcs that just seem like they're going so fast, and you're like, you're bare, like, there's one line where Alita meets the love interest. Who we'll get into.
Yeah.
Hugo, yeah.
I think it's Yugo, actually.
Is it just Hugo?
With like a Y.
Okay. It's been a while since
I've always thought it was Hugo until earlier today when I saw it spelled out.
You're probably right. It's been a long time since I read it.
Yeah, Hugo. Yeah.
But yeah, and when she meets him, he asks what her favorite food is, and she says clementines. But it's only been a day, I guess. And so like you realize that like
That's one of the more poignant lines in the film, and
Yeah.
especially in the first quarter, which is like where there's only where it's the only what I would consider well-paced part of the film.
Mhm.
Well-paced being a very tentative title, I would say like not breakneck pace.
yeah,
It's forced to be a little bit more reserved because it's establishing so much.
Mhm.
Like it has to be a lot more methodical about it. After it has its foundation laid, it is just light speed.
yeah, absolutely. And it's sad because each arc that it goes through could be its own movie. Not in the sense that an Alita movie, but it could be like an interesting topic to go into.
Yeah.
Um,
This film, in and of itself,
Yeah.
goes into a lot of interesting ideas
Yeah.
and world building,
Mhm.
and there's exactly right. There's a lot of concepts at play. I think that it touches on, but it in a very superficial way and not in a cerebral way. It like that's almost like a thesis statement for the film of how it is like because when you hear people talk about it, honestly, it's usually action, visuals, nothing very emotional as far as that's concerned. Not to say that this film doesn't have at least a semblance of like of good characters, of plot, and of like an emotionality, but it's like mostly people go here for the visceral experience, for like the kinetic visual punch that this movie has, as opposed to like any sort of like interesting plot or
like inspiring characters.
yeah, or like some like really keynote themes that people are like, that's trying to preach about. It touches on like identity. I think that's probably one of the more
very surface level.
it kind of bounces around with each character. Like you have Alita, who's like once she discovers who she's trying to discover where she came from, who she is, and when she does, it's that juxtaposed to what Doc
Sorry.
no, you good. What Doc Ito thinks of her or wants her to be. Like,
Right.
He wants you to be my daughter,
Yeah.
so to speak, surrogate, but I'm actually like this war machine.
Mhm.
Ito struggles with who he is post his daughter, his transformation into the hunter that he becomes.
Yeah.
Sheeran with her making her turn, like remembering that she is a mother doctor is what she ultimately chooses over her sort of more over the necessity to become a Zolom citizen again or whatever the fuck.
Citizen, yeah.
Yeah,
And like I'll give it that Alita's pretty well defined through the movie. I actually liked Alita's portrayal quite a lot.
yeah, me too.
But Ito, so it's like Ito gets the setup of him like having to come to terms with who he is now,
Yeah,
but there's no payoff to that.
yeah, not really.
And then
not in the sense.
there's no scene that where he's actually has to confront it.
Yeah, no.
He just kind of is. He's like, man, this is who I am, and that's it.
yeah.
And then that's the inverse for what's his wife's name again?
Sheeran,
Sharon. Thank you. I'm so glad you looked this up because
you're good.
again, it's been so long. But Sharon
4 or 5 days
in the movie. Well, no, since I read it, and so like I
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
listening to the names of the movie.
You're good.
Sharon gets the payoff of like, I remember who I am,
Hmm.
but it's never really set up. She's a bitch from moment one, and there's never really a good flashback to establish who she was.
Yeah, her turn is very like.
It's undeserved.
It not only is it undeserved, but like it comes at a moment that's climactic for circumstance, but for her character and like the framing of it, it doesn't.
She's just
She's not
suddenly
punch.
there.
She's like she's suddenly there,
Yeah.
and then she's like, "Oh, I'm empathetic," and it's like, okay, so you're good now. Like there isn't any. You don't see a deep sense of conflict in her.
Mhm.
It's just she's monitoring Alita this whole time, and then eventually, when the moment comes to seize upon it, she looks upon Alita, kind of has that brief moment of hesitation, and then just turns, and then that's the entirety of her character arc.
Yeah, and as I said, there's no setup to like show that she might be this type of person,
Yeah, there isn't any
other
subtext.
than Ito saying I was once married to her.
Exactly, yeah. Ito and her, and like that one conversation prior where they kind of give necessary exposition to contextualize their relationship and who Sheeran is in the first place.
Yeah,
Like, other than that, yeah, her character is pretty flat. I mean, she's a sub character, but it kind of just goes back to what we were talking about earlier, how I was hoping that even if the characters, like, if they were flat in their writing,
yeah,
that maybe the actors would find ways to elevate them. And
Yeah.
these are some big budget actors.
yeah. You
I was
have,
hoping that, like, especially
Christoph Waltz.
yeah, he's got an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, same as Mashallah Ali. And I was hoping that Mashallah Ali would fucking Raul Julia this bitch and like fucking give it the Bison treatment.
Yeah.
But no, he tried in moments. But the problem is his fucking character gets hijacked by Nova. Like,
Yeah.
So he's like playing.
and then Edward Norton comes in.
Oh my
and it's
God.
Like, yeah, so many big names that just like feel like they aren't being used to their full.
Yeah.
Like, but I mean, nobody does, and again, nobody does poorly. Like it's not.
Oh
like,
yeah, everyone's serviceable.
It's not like Christoph Waltz is like bad in this movie. It's just that he doesn't have much to do.
Yeah. And Rosa Salazar as Alita does fantastic.
Oh yeah. As I mentioned before, she's my favorite part about the movie.
Yeah.
I remember we were all kind of like chuckling when the initial model came out, and she like big bug eyes and stuff like that. But honestly, you get used to it very quickly.
It's very charming, honestly, by the end.
Yeah, especially because like she gets a true development where she's, a sweetheart around Ito, but she does have this like craving for justice and this craving to like because of who she really is.
Yeah, in the film, I went through a turn of like, oh god, what a fucking Mary Sue. Like, I was just like painfully annoyed at how positive. And then it clicked later on how maybe it was the chocolate or the fucking loving the little dog or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe I was succumbed to something very base level. My cold dead weeb heart turned on, and I suddenly realized that I really like the dichotomy of someone who's so incredibly positive, and then the necessity for them or to have that underlying violence underneath.
Yeah.
Like, because she is incredibly brutal in her fights, and I love it because, man, they get away with a lot of shit. Because,
that's the Roger Rodriguez in this movie.
Rob
Rodriguez.
Yeah.
My bad.
Fucking this is just amazing what you can get away with when everyone's a cyborg.
Yeah.
As far as ultra violence is concerned.
Yeah, if anything, that's worth going to see the movie alone.
Yeah.
The action's fantastic, very well choreographed. Impact feels very just good. Like
satisfying.
It's satisfying, yeah,
it
absolutely.
Is, yeah.
And like the only place where it doesn't is with Christoph Waltz.
Mm-hmm.
His character's like his whenever there's action involving him, it looks very awkward. Which
he was very
know if that was
stiff.
I don't know if that was super intentional. It's not like that in the manga.
No, I went to look up to see if Ito was as slow going as Christoph Waltz.
And I felt like they were just like, oh, it's Christoph Waltz. We can't really make him into an action hero, so
yeah. So I think they emphasized the weight on his weapon more.
Yeah, it just doesn't work.
And like, I mean, from a design standpoint, it's just like straight 1-to-1.
Oh yeah, but it just looks goofy.
Yeah.
So
it's a shame, but I mean, that's like a small little niche. It's one scene.
But it's another case of you should have you picked Christoph Waltz because he's a name, right?
Oh yeah,
to get people in the seats, which unfortunately it didn't. So why don't you just pick like a random actor who like you make look slightly older or who is older but is still like very built, like is an action man.
It depends on how much action they were trying to squeeze out of Ito, and it looks like there wasn't going to be much in general. Because if they kept the script from a design standpoint how it was, there's just that one moment where it's revealed he's a hunter, and that's it. Like there's no other moment where Ito springs into action.
I guess so.
He basically just sits around as Dr. Light and watches his Astro Boy, his Mega Man kind of fly around, and then that's about it.
Yeah, I guess.
So,
but yeah, the Rob Rodriguez part of this movie works very well. What's surprisingly lacking is the James Cameron portion of it, because I'll be upfront, I'm not a huge fan of James Cameron's more modern everything after like Terminator 2. I'm not a huge fan of.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not.
But
I can't think of anything besides Avatar.
But and even Avatar,
I didn't enjoy Avatar. Exactly.
I'm more impressed. I'm always impressed by James Cameron films, but they never really resonate with me. But I do know they resonate really well with audiences.
Yeah.
And it's not to try to be like high society about this or anything, but it's like he has a knack for either writing his scripts or having people write his scripts in a way that resonates with casual audiences, with like a huge audience. He knows how to get a movie technically impressive, as well as a script that runs well with the your mom, your dad, stuff like that. Exactly. Like Titanic's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Where it's like that script is like generic as fuck, but it fucking works.
That's the thing. All of his scripts are generic as fuck. No offense to anyone who would like to say, besides Terminator 2-ish, because of I think it's a more logistically complex movie because of the time travel and all the other kind of things going on in that film.
But even compared to Terminator 1, it's not like it's nothing quite like that.
Yeah.
And so, and that's not to say. So when I say that, I'm putting the context of James Cameron scripts always try to have a clean slate about it, try to appeal to the common man. It doesn't feel like this movie does that.
Interesting. I feel like Alita is fairly digestible to the layman because I feel like there isn't a whole lot going on that would jar you away. Other than the general fantastical setting, this is a fairly linear film. You have an amnesiac protagonist who has a crisis of identity, obviously. After that's solved, and they take up the mantle, like, Alita isn't a rebellion leader or anything specific. She just...
Well, by the end she is.
By the end, yeah. By the end, she more or less is, but...
which, again, no setup.
She's a very, very straightforward romance.
Yes.
She has a nice little relationship with the new father figure.
Yeah.
And she's just kind of at war with the world.
Okay.
Like the powers that
world.
be, the upper world, and that's it. And it's I feel like it's pretty easy. The actual events and world building may seem, I think it gives the illusion of complexity a little bit.
Okay.
But I don't think that narratively it should be too disorientating, in my opinion.
Okay.
I think that there is a drop of Cameron's simplicity in there.
Okay.
I mean, again, he's been trying to simplify this thing for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I think that he probably got it as simplified as you can get, condensing the amount of information he wanted to do. Because obviously we talked about it just a minute ago.
Yeah.
How many volumes of manga he probably squeezed into this like 2-hour film.
I love that. I love that image of James Cameron just sitting at his desks. And I say desks, multiple.
Yes.
Having manga just splayed out, like I do.
Yes.
And just studying, going, how the fuck? Just like turning the page. How the fuck am I gonna film this? Okay, I'll keep that one. I'll keep that image. Yeah. Like stuff like that.
Honestly, it's an interesting idea, and it's this movie does have that heart, and that's kind of a shit word to use, but in the sense of it kind of just oversimplifies so much of the process. But I genuinely believe this is a passion project for James.
Oh yeah,
like he's been attached to this thing for years, like decades, and Robert Rodriguez as well. And I think that the two of them genuinely wanted to make something out of this project that was meaningful, or at least that resonated with audiences, and it is with an audience.
Right. And I guess it's just like my problem comes more like how well it was executed in terms of like not the production, the CGI studio. Weta. Such a good job. Like the visuals are stunning.
Fantastic, really, yeah. I mean
but yeah, like actually let's go on to that. Let's go on to how beautiful this movie is.
I mean Cameron like wrote the book on like integrating CGI and IRL. So he was definitely a good producer to be behind Weta, and like it's just there's so much talk about the uncanny valley when it comes to
it's fine.
I definitely have no problem with this film.
Like it's the only problem I could see people having is if they try to take Alita as a human, and it's like she's not a human. She is very different from a human.
Yeah.
It's like how nobody complained about how Avatar people looked.
Exactly.
Because they weren't people. They were they're their own people. not my people.
Are you like literally backpedaling for like sympathetic like Avatar people?
I'm just trying not to be racist here, okay? Like, give me a break. I don't need my name blown up on the internet going like Smurf hater super hard. Anyway,
who hates blue people?
But yeah, so as long as you take Alita as a better, like not better than a human, but you know what I mean, like
no, absolutely
different from human.
I know what you meant because that's probably what helped the transition, or rather the immersion process, I should say.
Yeah,
Alita should not look human because she's not.
Yeah,
the way she moves is like a cyborg in ways that only they should be able to move. And once you get past that, it kind of helps meld all the other cyborgs in. It kind of helps the whole world kind of settle in a little bit more. And besides, that's what I enjoy about this film as a whole. The setting, the atmosphere, this cyberpunk world it reaches the fantastical heights that I want anime to makes anime so endearing to me.
Okay.
You know, like it goes that far. And so I don't want something that looked realistic. You know, I understand it's a film, and I want it to kind of have that
broader appeal.
Yeah, exactly. The broader appeal and that pseudo-grounded nature. But in general, I still want it to be incredible. Like, I want it to be more than average. So, yeah.
And, okay, so this is interesting, because going into this, I thought I was going to have to defend this movie a little more from you. So what were some of the things that you didn't like about this film?
I mean, it's what we talked about earlier.
Okay.
Fucking, like
pacing.
the pacing is just garbage. Like
Yeah.
not garbage, but it is just breakneck to the point where everything is undercutting itself from a
Yeah.
narrative standpoint.
Okay.
We talked about this when we were in the car when we were kind of like extremely hot off the presses with this film.
We saw it with 2 other people.
Yeah.
And even both of them, Dan, who was on this podcast, and Meza, who I think has also been on this podcast.
Possibly. I mean, he fucking facilitates the shit out of it. So.
But yeah, and both of them are like, they're not as much like film critiquers as we are, I think.
Yeah.
But even they were like, I'm so confused, I'm so lost. A film should not only guide you for its narrative, but also for its emotional narrative. Like, it should be stringing you along so that you feel something at a certain point. And like, after the halfway point, which I'll say is the bar scene, this movie just it's like, okay, feel sad now, feel happy now, feel bad now, feel good now. And it's like,
oh, it's not, it's not subtle in any way whatsoever. Like, all of its characters,
things just start happening.
Yeah,
and I know why they happen. I've read the manga, but it's like it just happens without good cause.
You had the angle of having seen and read the manga previous to this. I didn't, and everyone else we kind of watched with it didn't, and I'm sure most people obviously won't. But going into it, even just with a clean mind, or rather no baggage, going in and just seeing it for what it was, you could see how plainly it undercuts itself all the time. Like, you have Alita and Ito and their small argument about putting her into her true body, only to have it happen 15 minutes later.
Yeah.
Same thing with
Yugo.
Yeah, Yugo. I was gonna mention his
okay, so slight spoiler. You can skip spoilers. A minute into the future, I'll say. We'll cover some in a minute. But yeah, Yugo dies twice within the span of like
15 minutes.
15 minutes. It's really bad. And the reason, like, you can explain why it happens, but ultimately it happens because we needed to get from point A to point B. So yeah, spoilers over, by the way.
Yep. I feel like there was another moment too that I'm forgetting.
We mentioned earlier with Ito and Shirin, where like Shirin feels like she's missing a few flashbacks. And Ito feels like he's missing some conclusion to his hunter identity story.
Yugo's character as well kind of hops around a little bit. You mentioned that it kind of I felt like they could have done, for the romance in particular, I definitely felt there could have done a little bit more to create
go for it. Yeah,
just some semblance of tension, because like there's room to explore so many ideas. I know that everything needs to be tight. I guarantee that James and Robert thought this out meticulously, and that they cut everything they felt they needed to cut, because a lot gets left on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
But their relationship is so flat.
Yes, so that comes in twofold. A, do you know Yugo's actor's name?
Yes, I had to pull it up, and I thought he was the guy from Sky High.
Oh my god, he does look like that
also
guy.
from that movie, from the Journey to the West with Jackie Chan and Jet Li. But it wasn't either of them. So those actors. His name is Kian Johnson.
Okay.
His only major credit previous to this, I believe, is a show called Spooksville. Honestly, and I can't find shit.
Kudos to him for getting the role. Yeah. But unfortunately, their relationship falls flat in 2 ways. A, just the way the story's paced. Mm-hmm. They shove the 2 characters together from like moment 1, and so it just feels kind of forced in that manner. And B, their chemistry just doesn't work. They don't have the 2 actors don't have any chemistry.
It's just too poppy-lovey for me. And in general, like, I can see maybe from like, I mean, they're both 2 attractive young adults, I guess. But other than that, it very quickly goes from like longing stares to like just straight like
I will die on this hill for this man.
Exactly. Yeah, like seductive hand holding and feeling
and talking about sensitivity.
Like, it's just okay. So yeah, the pacing again, just way too weirdly fast. Because they just 2 peas in a pod immediately. And I was gonna, especially with that scene in particular, because there's so many lines.
The actual romance.
Yeah, the climax of their romance has so many.
It's very cheesy. Yeah, it's very cheesy.
Very cringy cheese lines in there. One, her just going into her new body and its sensitivities, and I'm like,
it's like,
if you previously had any sort of conversation about this, it would be not only less creepy, but I mean, there's a naivete to her character, so it's kind of like cutesy, I guess. But at the same time, it felt like it could have been a deep character moment for like how she and her previous body maybe had less sensitive touch. There's always that conversation. There's the fucking slang they use, hard body. Like, there could have been
There could have been more setup.
There could have been a more human moment there.
Yeah.
And instead, she
It
just comes in there.
It comes off as like a sex robot advertising.
Oh,
itself.
yeah. She just comes in
Just
there.
like, I have sensitivity ranges of
Yeah.
pig skin to human skin. You go. Do you like?
Yeah, exactly.
Will you buy?
$4.
Oh, no, she's not Asian.
No, well, she's by design.
But yeah, like, it's just, it's so, it could be, if it's set up where, like, before Hugo is turned off, and again, I know the manga, like, yada yada, but, like, we're talking about what happens in the movie. And so, if there was a setup where, sensitivity is brought up, and then later on she innocently adds, like, she's just so excited talking about her new body and all its features, and she just happens to mention that, and maybe she realizes, oh, I brought up something kind of embarrassing, and, like...
Yeah, she backpedals.
She backpedals a bit. That'd be a cute little moment. But
possibly.
Like,
but I mean, she doesn't have to backpedal.
She doesn't. She doesn't have
because
to.
that's her earnestness as part of her character.
That is something that's my preference, but she does not have to. Absolutely.
Exactly.
But yeah, it needs to be like more thought out than just bringing it up.
And of course, our favorite line.
Oh God, you have to say it. I can't.
Where Hugo was like,
no,
Alita. Yeah, what was like? You're the most.
No,
human.
the setup is Alita asking.
Oh yeah,
can you love me even if I'm not a human?
No, yeah, she's like, does it bother you?
Does it bother you
that I'm not entirely human? And she's like, you're the most human person I ever met. And it like in the theater, I wish I was louder about it, but I was like,
I mean, you could be as loud as you want. There's nobody in the theater for you to hear.
I know,
for to hear you.
There's like 10 other humans in there.
Yeah. And maybe they were.
That were more human than Alita.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Alita was very human. And again, it's one of those things that Alita is very human. But the line is undeserved. It just is so forced that we just go, oh my God, you don't say it.
Yeah.
Don't say it. It doesn't help that it was in the trailers as well, and everybody rolled their eyes at the trailers.
That's true, yeah.
So yeah, that's probably the low points of the movie. Which is sad because those are supposed to be some of the really emotional.
Oh yeah, they're supposed to be the crux of the death of the main romance, the fucking climax of the main romance. A lot of the fucking establishing character moments. Like,
yeah.
Like when Alita gets that suit, it kind of just feels like, I guess we were not arguing about this anymore.
Uh-huh.
I mean, because I guess now that you like, they very quickly after that fantastic bar scene, just strip her of the body because like, I guess we had to.
Yeah.
I don't.
You have to be forced into action.
And in lieu with that, actually. Comes to mind just now. Alita, for all the ass she kicks, or rather because of that, I should say, she never loses.
But that's why I like that bar scene in particular, because it's a pseudo win.
Technically, it's a pseudo loss.
It's a pseudo loss because she doesn't kill the bad guy. She doesn't complete her goal. She just like barely escapes.
Yeah, that's the closest thing to a loss she has in the film.
Right.
She does repel Grishka, but she doesn't. But she does lose her body in the process.
Yeah.
But she does repel him. So like it's like that's the closest she gets to losing.
And
Granted, she almost dies.
Yeah, and she would have died if the dogs hadn't come in.
I love the dog guy.
The dog guy's great.
There's like so many good character designs in that bar.
Oh yeah. That bar screen in particular is just fantastic.
Zapanna's a fairly good sub character, like a different accessory.
He works as a minor arc villain.
Yeah, I do like him quite a bit. A lot of the characters. The miscellaneous characters have some good character design, enough charm to get by.
Yeah.
But yeah, the action in this film's fantastic.
Oh my God, yeah. How many Cammy normals did you see in this movie?
I don't know.
We saw V Trigger 2.
Yeah.
We didn't see any Spiral Arrow. Oh no, we saw a couple Spiral Arrows.
Sort of Spiral Arrows.
We didn't see any Hooligan combination though, which is always sad.
When she fucking kicks that girl's head into the wall.
Oh my God.
That was
That was the moment where you're like, is the body gonna drop?
And it did.
And it's like glorious.
Yes.
We've been here 20 minutes.
Good.
And somebody's been decapitated by Stomp.
Keep this up.
Yes. And it does. I mean, it does for the most part.
Yeah, a fair amount of people got split in half. I want to say like 4, 3.
One human.
Yeah, one actual.
And I went, am I watching PG-13? Did they get away with PG-13 because they knew nobody would see this? Like,
Rob's like, whatever. It's just a anime movie.
Yes. All that said about the movie review, we're here now. We're doing the best we can.
Yes, we're in a post-Alita world now.
And so there's a lot of support behind this movie.
Yeah, I mean, from everyone I'm seeing on our end, from physical conversations, well, physical in a strange sense, but conversations that I've had on our anime with people like you in person who've actually seen the film, videos that I'm seeing from a lot of the anime creators on YouTube, Mother's Basement, etc.,
Yeah.
people are just making this movie into a rallying cry for like, this is what we want. Or rather, you should support this so that we get more of what we want, because this is emblematic of the anime films that we want to see in Hollywood. This is the golden opportunity. James Cameron is a once-in-a-lifetime chance for all of us to show, hey, Hollywood put more or less as much as they could into an anime film. Please show support. It's not a shitty film.
Right. And so... part of like I feel like that's almost more of an interesting conversation than Alita itself.
It kind of is, and I'm glad we kind of open with it, because it is what's going to dominate like the community and the culture for the time being.
At least my Twitter feed.
Yeah, much more than the film itself. Like I feel like I've heard more people jeer me to see the film on principle.
Yeah.
And then on anything else.
Yeah, which
is a strange.
I wonder if that'll actually work. I feel like that would make me like want to wait. Because it's like, well, why don't we talk about how good the movie is? But anyway.
Honestly, I mean, that's typically like when you're asked to see a movie, how often is it this film was so good, etc. Reasons why.
Yeah.
But just as often you can hear films where it's like, this is why you should see this movie. It has an impactful message, and the message of the movie isn't that the movie itself presents the message, but what it represents for
I'm having a hard time thinking of a lot of.
It's
films.
like Black Panther-esque.
Oh.
Not to kind of
Are we gonna open that?
Yeah, I'm honestly, yes, it is the Weeaboo Black Panther. Like, that is what we're gonna call. I'm gonna title this motherfucking podcast.
Okay.
Alita Battle Angel.
This is where you never hear from me. No, I can see it.
I don't mean to undercut everything Black Panther represents.
I can see it. Where it's a movie that like is a solid 8, and like I don't get how people make it out to be a 10.
Yeah.
Or act like it's a 10, I guess.
I love, in particular, Black Panther from Marvel. I think it's a fantastically concise movie with a fantastic soundtrack, with better acting than it deserves.
Yeah.
But it is very linear, very simple film, and it doesn't really express much more than its cultural sentiment. Or rather, the film itself isn't greater than its cultural sentiment. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think Alita is. Alita is like a 6, 7 out of 10 movie to me.
I think Black Panther's better than Alita.
Oh, by a country. I was gonna say by a country mile, but like by a fair distance.
By a couple notches.
Yeah, by a couple notches. There's much more being said, being done, and executed in a much more
relatable elements.
Yeah,
despite both being like high fantasy.
Exactly.
Power trip films. So just to put that out there.
Yeah.
I definitely like Black Panther.
There are parallels between the two. I'm not saying that they're exactly
just in the reaction, at least.
Exactly, and what people are trying to create out of the film.
Yeah.
Post its release.
Yeah, and so like, part of me, I don't want to discourage people for like trying to get people to watch this movie for like the reason of like, hey, like, help support this scene and stuff like that. But I think it always has to come like, a film should always be advertised on its quality before its like political points.
The film is kind of like entrenched in its vanity. And
we're talking about Alita again.
Alita,
now.
yeah. It's just
not Black Panther.
Yeah. And it kind of sounds weird to say. It sounds like a very stuck up your nose sort of thing. But like I mentioned earlier, it isn't the film's message. It's like what it represents because of what we want for future. It's like an investment movie.
Right.
And then if I could have sacrificed some of the visual splendor of Alita to have a better plot, I would do it in a heartbeat, personally. As my preference as a movie-going fan.
Yeah.
Because, and trust me, there's plenty of visual splendor to go around. Like, this is one of the best CG movies that I've ever... It's not a CG film in its entirety. It's 60-70% CG for sure. Yeah. Integrated very well. Fantastic looking. Even the 3D. We saw it in IMAX 3D. Yeah. And I feel like some of the framing took advantage of the stereoscopic in a very good way. This is one of those few films where I'd say 3D is serviceable. It's worth going possibly if you want to make that purchase. But if I could give some of that up to like forever eliminate that more human than anybody I ever met line, or maybe make the romance a little bit better,
make it better so that
or
the line doesn't make you
girl. Give Ito some catharsis. Maybe make Vector Mashallah Ali's character just a little bit more imposing, or fleshed out, or fucking maybe even I don't know, something for Nova.
Yeah.
But or Yugo in general. Just if we could have fleshed the movie out a little bit more for the characters and for the narrative, and then sacrifice some of the more superficial things, I would have done it. But it's fine because, honestly, from a marketing standpoint, it's probably better this way.
Is it though?
I think people want something that's less substantial in...
Well, I say the reason why I ask is it because, like, and granted, we don't know the box office return at this time of recording.
Yeah, not this recording. We'll probably...
But it doesn't look like it's doing well. It was a risky month.
It's
February's a bad month to
February
come
is where fucking Hollywood leaves films to die.
Well, January is where you really go to die.
February all can be worse. I think January is Oscar season.
Okay.
So there's a lot of that going around. February is where, like, the carcasses lie. But February is where some films have flourished. A la the aforementioned Black Panther.
That's true. That's true.
And I feel like it's going through a renaissance over the last 2-3 years, like where people and Deadpool, like studios are taking big budget films and throwing them into the winter area.
So then, what does that mean for Alita if it doesn't do very well?
It's still a barren wasteland. And I still think that I feel like Alita is on pace to break even, like not be a
especially with the international box.
Exactly.
Now that China's a thing, you never have to worry about your action movie not breaking even anymore.
Oh my god, China!
You never have to worry about that.
Terminator Genesis was profitable after China.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
No, same with a lot of action films that flop over here.
Yeah.
Warcraft.
Yeah,
the Warcraft movie is the most is the best selling or most highly viewed video game movie adaptation of all time because of China.
It's fascinating. We have a whole conversation about that another time.
But sure. So it'll break even, but
I
don't know if it'll warrant a sequel.
I think it may win its weekend. It may have won its weekend, but we may not even know by this time of recording. I think it may have beat out Lego.
Oh wow, yeah,
exactly. Yeah, kind of in a weirdly stiff competition for February, but yeah, from a monetary standpoint, how this stands to pace out over the next few weeks, I don't see the longevity of it unless something like this comes through. Yeah. Like this sort of grassroots call to action, please, in this dead time for the cinema, try to make some sort of purchase so that fucking 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we have like
Alita 2.
Yeah, Alita 2. Or,
more human than ever.
Akira. As played by, I don't know, one of the Jonas Brothers or that.
Right, and so, yeah, or whatever, future movie may be. But my problem is that, so this call to action, this grassroots call to action, like, what it's trying to do is, it's not trying to save the first box office weekend, it's trying to save the next one. And there are a few movies that I can think of that have actually done better their second weekend than their first. One of them is Gravity.
Yeah, no.
And Gravity got there because that movie wowed audiences.
Yeah. I remember seeing that film.
Not because, oh my god, they did the adaptation right. It was because it was a technically impressive film, and audiences had not seen a movie with a solo character, a character more or less by themselves throughout the entire film, and still be tense and interesting. There were a lot of reasons why Gravity did way better at second and third weekend, and I don't think Alita is going to be one of them.
No, I think you and I are fairly savvy when it comes to the culture in Hollywood. We both know that like 90% of the time, and that's fairly accurate, probably percentage, a majority of the profits made on the first weekend.
Yeah,
domestic. Oh yeah, at least 80% of domestic is done.
Yeah,
in America, that's your whole profit usually.
Yeah.
Rarely is there a second push that's stronger than the first.
Yeah.
So whatever Alita makes from this opening weekend that we haven't exactly pulled up at this moment in time, I might pull it up right now, but that's probably a majority of what it's going to make in general. And rarely, but now thanks to, like we mentioned earlier, China's profits, usually the American domestic for Hollywood was usually a majority, definitely more than half of what you were going to make.
Yeah.
In the film's lifetime.
So so despite its possible failings here, we still might technically get a sequel, but I don't know. I think that's part of I think what we were just talking about is and our cynicism in that manner is part of the reason why we kind of, I don't want to say roll our eyes at this grassroots efforts, but like just kind of go, yeah, but guys, like I get you want people to see your movie, but you have to say something other than, you gotta save anime.
yeah, we gotta band together.
I don't know why I'm Southern.
The waifus need us.
The waifus need us.
So the early box office projections for Alita, I've googled it. We're around 23 million. I don't know what that is in juxtaposition of its production costs.
That's its estimate.
Yeah, the estimates, and that was a bad estimate, like a very dangerous estimate. Thankfully, apparently, approximately made a little over 43 million over the President's Day weekend. So
Okay.
I'm going to see what that meant in regards to its.
Usually, if you don't hit 50, it's pretty bad.
Well, it depends on how much this movie cost to make.
If you're an action film these days, it's 50. You have to hit 50.
I'll definitely look at it as we conversate, but in general, I know what you mean. Yeah, there is a bar.
There's a minimum you need to make.
But
hey, it did better than expected.
People are generally feeling positive about it in that regard, as far as like what I'm reading.
People on my Twitter timeline are feeling generally positive about it. Critics, not so much. What is its Metascore right now?
Metacritic is 54%. It's Rotten Tomatoes 59%.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what it's.
That's why I bring up like the average moviegoer, because like they either don't care or they're the nitpicks that we have, I think, are resonating more with them. I think they're not going to give it the same benefit of the doubt because it feels like anime, you know? And this is where I kind of actually, I know we're going long on this podcast, but I think I want to go into further detail of like what actually makes a good adaptation.
So I've gone into really quickly before we get into that, because it's definitely valid. But from the numbers perspective, which I've got from the always reliable Wikipedia.
Oh my god!
The budget for the film was roughly gross 200 million. So that obviously that 47 million number was domestic U.S. Global opening box office has it currently at 140 million.2. So
God bless China.
Yeah, so God bless China.
God bless China.
It is on pace to probably over the next month probably break even at the very least.
Yes.
So hooray.
Yeah.
However, you were saying about adaptations.
Oh, yeah. So like going forward with like live adaptations. For this conversation, let's start in the past, the most recent past.
Let's go some.
I'm talking about the Netflix adaptations that have recently come out, both Bleach and what was the other one that came out? Death Note. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's the bell cow for a lot of this.
Right, and I think that's where a lot of the grassroots maybe effort comes in, where it's like, okay, we found one, we found a good one.
I definitely understand that, because like we're gonna do a whole podcast on live action, separate from this. So just to very quickly segment that, because that's a huge element of what's going on with this film. Alita is very much in line with what the manga was, and that sounds like a very it did it right, but like from a design standpoint, characters, narratively, it's very much similar. Death Note tried to be very derivative, where it just takes the very basic premise of Death Note, the pairing of Ryuk and Light, and then puts it like
we gotta make it for the Westerners.
Yes, like, and it's
we gotta sell to the average American.
And you and I appreciate when something tries to be
different.
Yeah. You and I in particular, we've had this conversation many times in private, and it's like it shouldn't be it shouldn't be a watch like fucking Zack Snyder's Watchmen. It should not be your goal.
No.
Like, you do not want to be a shot for shot imitation of the adaptation of what you're adapting.
Yeah.
You want to have that freedom, because it can be something entirely new, better even.
Yeah.
You know, like in a lot of ways, Spider-Man on PlayStation 4 is my favorite Spider-Man anything. It is adapted from a comic book, but it is better than any film, any comic that I've read almost. Like, it is a top 5 Spider-Man experience that I've ever had, and that's because it was very willing to take everything that had come before it and create something that is fresh and new with all that. And I think that there's, in The Dark Knight as a film, very derivative of other comics that came before it, The Long Halloween, etc., but it is its own entity within the Batman mythos, and it's lauded as not only one of the best Batman films of all time, probably one of the best films of like the last 20 years.
Oh yeah, and it's interesting, that one in particular, because it works more as a detective film than as a superhero movie.
All elements of the character, and that's something that you can do as a creator.
Yeah.
You take elements of what this IP is made of, and then you can use that to create the base of the DNA of whatever you're going to make with it.
Yeah, there has to be like a creative spark there. And yeah, there's a very, I don't want to say it's a thin line. I feel like people can play with it more than you'd expect.
Yeah.
But obviously Death Note went too far.
Exactly.
So I haven't watched the Bleach one. I don't know much about Bleach.
Bleach is divisive. I like it from a popcorny flick version. I can see, like, we talking about, like, or Jeremiah, like Meza he was fucking salty about it, and that's the line you walk. That's the tightrope of adaptation. You have people who are just die by the standards that they have for these adaptations, and people like you and I who are much more flexible about what we want, because it should stand as its own entity. Like we were saying, like Harry Potter is a very good adaptation of the novels.
It's probably one of the best adaptations of a movie, of a book to film.
Whoever edits and J.K., if she's like on the screenwriting, like whoever was able to organize and basically prioritize the keynote moments of those films, ace, A++. Like,
yeah,
they knew exactly what they were doing going in.
Yeah, and so I think coming back to Alita, I think Alita its pacing issues are tied back to it trying to be the manga too much. And it's not like, oh, we can't have this action scene. It's just more like maybe don't have Yugo in it. I don't know. She doesn't need a love interest. Maybe don't emphasize as much about this or that or the other. It's like,
I wonder how much goes into how much went into the idea room. How much of Alita do we want to keep reverent to the manga for the sake of fans? Because we know that in this particular market, people are very stingy about this sort of thing.
I wouldn't even say stingy. I'd just say volatile.
Oh yeah, and like that affects your fucking monetary returns. That affects your ROI.
Yeah.
Versus what we need to change
as
a necessity to make this a digestible film. So much of the editing of the material of this is what became, was the crux of this whole project. And I'm sure that's why James took 20 years to shave this fucking script around. It's just, it was everything.
Yeah.
So that's probably what is the soul of making live action adaptations and just adapting material in general. And that's probably what we'll talk about in our podcast about that when we do that. But yeah, that whole editing of what you keep, what you don't, and what is necessary, that'll be a fun conversation.
Yeah. Before we kind of wrap up on that thought, what is your favorite live adaptation of I'll say, like, we'll keep it simple. We'll keep it to anime/manga. Because I got mine.
Go.
No, I want to hear you first.
Gotta help me. I can't think of anything right now.
There's the Phoenix Wright one. There's the.
You told me you didn't like that.
I didn't like it. I don't know if you liked it though.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, fair enough.
See the trailer. It looks funny.
I mean, there's what we just saw. Alita's
for Alita. It's gonna be up there for me.
Okay.
It's a short list, but still.
List. Okay.
And we're gonna keep it to anime manga. I don't think any video game adaptation has been extremely successful. I mean, I liked what we're watching right now. I mean, I'm rewatching Castlevania,
right?
Quite a bit. By the end, I know that right now we're kind of like
I'm on the rocky side.
Yeah, it's a little dry, but still.
What about
But for anime and manga, what comes to mind for me, Rurouni Kenshin has a fantastic adaptation.
Okay, yeah, you've mentioned that multiple times, so we'll put that as your favorite at the moment. For what you can remember.
If I can't think of anything else, Rurouni Kenshin for sure.
Right.
Thumbs up on that one.
Okay, cool. All right, nice. I mean, I'm looking forward to the Your Name one actually.
That should be an interesting experiment.
Because I think. I messaged you when that came out on Twitter what the setup was going to be.
The Native
American and the Chicagan, mortal enemies as we know. And I laughed very loudly in my car when I read that. But I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt because it's doing what we said, where you're taking it and you're doing something else with it. So I like that. So we'll see.
Yeah,
but we'll have more to talk about when we go into live action.
Yeah, for sure.
When I watch the trash fire that are those two Netflix live adaptations.
Oh my god, we'll definitely enjoy that. I know that Rob and Jeremiah are watching the Kakegurui live
Is that
action.
any good?
The anime itself, I love.
Yeah.
The live action. No clue. Haven't seen it yet. So we'll definitely see. So I think we're kind of already started slipping into the mindset. So we'll wrap up shop for Alita. I think we got most of what we wanted to say out. I hope that you guys listening enjoyed our conversation. If there's any thoughts that you had on the entire culture and stories that are revolving around Alita, if you guys enjoyed the film, if you hated it, whatever your thoughts are, shout them down below in the comments. If you had fun, throw the thumbs up, give us a like, and subscribe if you want more Otaku Remix podcasts in your future. But as always, have a good day, have a good life. We will see you all next time.